Do you remember a time where you would fall asleep immediately when you went to bed and you got a juicy 7.5 to 8 hours of consolidated, refreshing sleep, and you woke up right when your alarm went off? If you remember that and you find yourself now sleeping easier, but it takes you a while to fall asleep, your sleep is kind of superficial. You wake up earlier than you'd like to. You don't feel quite as refreshed. You may be in this struggle, one step away from where you want to be because of the golden sleep fallacy. And this video is for you. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Insomnia Insight. And inspiration for this episode actually came to me just like 2 hours ago when kind of this concept hit me. It's like what we're going to talk about here is nothing that is new to me. In fact, I've had many students, clients, followers, patients who've been in this golden sleep fallacy situation, but it kind of just gelled. And that's what we're talking about today. But anyways, I've heard this very, very many times. I'm sleeping better, but it's not like before. And this is someone who has, found our way, found our teachings, and thanks to learning about sleep, becoming less frazzled, seeing the hyperarousal come down and sleeping easier. But it's not like before. Before they'd fall asleep right away. Now it takes 30 minutes, an hour. Before they wouldn't remember waking up at all, or remember waking up once or twice. Now sleep is kind of superficial. They don't feel like entirely sure they slept. It's not like before. Or waking up earlier. They used to wake up when the alarm went off. Now they're waking up, an hour before, something like that. It's not quite like before. And so to meet this situation, we have divided today's class into 3 sections. We're going to talk about the golden sleep fallacy, understanding what it is. And then we're going to see why the golden sleep fallacy can keep us in a bit of a struggle, and then how to meet the golden sleep fallacy. So yeah, let's start with number 1 here. What is the golden sleep fallacy? Well, inspiration for this title or this name actually comes from something I learned from a Woody Allen movie, Midnight in Paris, which centers around the golden age fallacy. If you're into Woody Allen movies, I think that one is very, very nice movie, where people are in kind of like today, which is probably like the early 2000s or something. But some of the cast members really look back at the golden age of Paris, which was the time of like Hemingway and that era. And one of them actually gets to like magically travel back to that age and meets this lady who thinks this is not the golden age. The golden age was actually the time of like, I don't know, Degas and like the big painters in the area. I'm not so good at history, as you can tell, but that concept really struck me, and that kind of led to this like, aha, this is so similar to what we see in Insomnia, but here it's about sleep, so we call it the golden sleep fallacy. Anyway, sorry to give you a little bit too much of a backstory, but that's it. Anyways, now let's get into it. Many studies have shown the following. So it's very well known in the sleep field that how we assess our sleep or think about our sleep or evaluate our sleep depends on where we're at sleep-wise. If you take 1,000 people and you ask all of them if they have insomnia, give them some kind of questionnaire, then typically something like 20% will fall into like the insomnia category, and 80% will say they don't struggle with sleep. There's no insomnia. And those 80% who are not struggling with insomnia, they're just adults not struggling with sleep, will estimate that they sleep about 7 hours, while the other 20% who struggle with sleep will estimate that they sleep about 5 hours. But in reality, objectively speaking, they sleep the same amount. They sleep about 6 hours, just a little bit more than 6 hours. So in other words, when we don't struggle with sleep, we overestimate how much we sleep, not just the total amount of sleep, but we overestimate how much we sleep, as in how long it took us to fall asleep. Like we think we fall asleep faster, and we think we slept longer. We think we woke up less, etc. All of it is overestimated when we don't struggle with sleep. Sleep. But when we do struggle with sleep, we underestimate how much we sleep. Not only the total amount, but we also think it took us a long time to fall asleep, that we wake up many times, etc., etc. And keeping this in mind, we can see the following: that when we are in a place where we are struggling with sleep and we look back upon the time when we weren't, then it can look truly wonderful and amazing. When we look back at the time when we were not struggling, it can look like a golden sleep era. We can remember that, oh my gosh, before this happened, I fell asleep immediately. I slept through the night. I felt refreshed. I woke up when my alarm set off. But reality, if we could travel back in time and objectively assess sleep back then, we would find that it wasn't quite like that. In fact, we would find that when we're not struggling with sleep, we just think everything is fine. We just assume we sleep like you're quote unquote supposed to sleep, something like that. We think we are a great sleeper when objectively there's probably very little difference between our sleep and somebody else's. But we think we're a great sleeper simply because there's no struggle whatsoever with sleep. So the golden sleep fallacy is when we look back upon the time when we were not struggling with sleep and it looks absolutely wonderful and amazing and rose colored. So, seeing this though, it may not be entirely obvious why this can keep us in a struggle. So that's what we're going to look at next. So, why does this golden sleep fallacy, why does this illusion of the perfect sleep in the past, why does this keep us struggling? Well, it is because in 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 to a great extent, insomnia can be described as form of performance anxiety. Sleep is a passive, natural, homeostatic process that is automatic. But when we try to uh, perfect it or we introduce effort, we're trying to improve it. That's when this kind of effortless process doesn't exist anymore, and we have struggle. And that happens when we compare it to something. So when we think I should sleep like I slept before, that automatically introduces effort. We're going to try to improve things and tweak things, and so this releases like performance anxiety and choppy sleep. And even more so when we're comparing to this unrealistic, idealized version of how we slept before that isn't even real, that is unattainable for anyone, you know? So this is why the golden sleep fallacy keeps us in a struggle. And typically, as I mentioned uh, earlier, the golden sleep fallacy is not something we see when somebody's kind of like in this Oz world, when they're completely frustrated and things are like off the charts and like they're in a very intense anxiety filled struggle. No, the golden sleep fallacy is more something we see when there has been some understanding, things have calmed down overall. There is still this comparison to before that maintains a level of performance anxiety that keeps us in a little bit of struggle. So when we know all this, the final question becomes: okay, so how do we meet this? If you recognize yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, this is it. I think the golden sleep fallacy is what's been keeping me from, you know, arriving where I want to be, which is a place of peaceful sleep and peace of mind. So what do I do here? Well, automatically, just by learning this, you know, things have already started to shift. Just by seeing that, aha, this has been happening, things are already on their way to resolving. So I just want to say, if you're hearing this, if you got to this part of the video, well done. You could have clicked on some other thumbnail, on telling you to eat more lingonberry or something like that. But no, you are willing to take this journey inside, learn about yourself, your own thought, etc. Well done. And this automatically will be so helpful. Now, when people have asked me, like, Daniel, I'm sleeping easier, but I don't sleep like before, I like to use a phrase I've come up with there, which goes like this: you're not sleeping like before because you were not comparing your sleep to before. And that can be like kind of eye opening and like, aha, oh yeah, that's right. Before, I wasn't comparing sleep to before, but now I am. And when we're no longer comparing sleep to before, then we sleep like before, right? So it's just a phrase that kind of encapsulates everything we talked about that I wanted to share with you. And finally, learning, I think, is really, really key on the path of leaving an inner struggle. but it cannot be forced. So, for example, if you see all this, if you understand all this cognitively and intellectually, but your brain keeps comparing and keeps saying like, maybe this is only partially true. I do remember actually very clearly that I fell asleep very quickly. Now I'm not. So there is a difference there, and something like that. If this kind of comparison comes up, and you find yourself um, uh, still sort of believing in the golden sleep thing, part of your brain is still believing in this, then I'd say we can't force that to change. The more we're going to be like, stop comparing brain, stop thinking there's a golden sleep age, the more it's going to resist that. Right. So this is just becomes if you see this happening, if you see your brain kind of comparing and still coming up with this golden sleep fallacy type of picture, see that it's just another invitation. It's just another invitation to let the brain do its thing. Even we understand the big picture. Part of the brain still needs a little bit of processing, needs a little bit of space, needs a little bit of time. Let it be, and everything will fall into a place all by itself. Let's conclude there. Love to get your talk on the golden sleep fallacy. Do you recognize yourself? Is it something that's happened to you? Any other comments? Put them in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of this journey. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now. Hi, it's me, Daniel, and I hope you found incredible value in the video you just watched. If you did, please share it with the world. Like it, comment, because this way more people can find their way to peaceful sleep. Now, if you like learning by reading and you feel like you have a little ways to go, then head over to Amazon and check out Set It and Forget It. It is a very easy book to read. It is flowy, it has illustrations. But if you're looking for some deeper understanding, then this is Natto, maybe the one for you. I hope they really help. Thank you for being here, and thank you for helping.